Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair watching the stars drift past the main screen. The human ship Endeavor moved slowly through the outer rim of the galaxy, far from Earth and far from trouble. At least that's what Jake had thought until the emergency message came through. The communication system crackled to life, and Admiral Lisa Grant's face appeared on the screen. Her usually calm expression was tight with worry. Dark circles under her eyes suggested she hadn't slept in days. "Jake, we have a situation," she said. Without any greeting, the Zephyrian Empire just declared war on the Altarian Republic. And GT happened 3 hours ago. Jake leaned forward in his chair. The Zephyrians and Altarians had been allies for thousands of years. They were both founding members of the Galactic Federation, the great alliance that had kept peace in the galaxy for over 10,000 years. "That's impossible," Jake said. "The Federation treaty prevents member species from fighting each other. Treaty is dead." Admiral Grant replied, "The Mendari Collective has sided with the Zephyrians. The Synthetic Union is backing the Altarians. 2 more species declared their positions an hour ago. Jake, the entire Federation is falling apart." Dr. Amy Rodriguez, the ship's science officer, looked up from her station. "Admiral, what started this conflict? It's the Zephyrians and Alarians have had the same trade agreements for centuries." Admiral Grant's expression grew even more grim. "That's the part you're not going to believe. Every species involved is blaming us. They're blaming humanity." The bridge fell silent. Jake's crew exchanged confused glances. Humanity had only been part of the Federation for 50 years. They were the newest members, still learning about galactic politics and trying to fit in. "What do you mean?" "They're blaming us," Jake asked. "We've been monitoring their communications." Admiral Grant explained. "Zephyrians claim we corrupted their economic system. They say human traders taught them about competition and profit, which destroyed their traditional resource sharing methods." Commander Ben Parker, the security chief, shook his head. "That doesn't make sense. We only shared our trading practices because they asked us to. It gets worse." Admiral Grant continued. "The Mendari are saying we destroyed their collective consciousness. They claim human concepts of privacy and individual thought are spreading through their population like a disease." Dr. Rodriguez pulled up data on her screen. "The Mendari are telepaths. They've shared thoughts as a species for millions of years. How could we affect that?" "I don't know," Admiral Grant said. "But they're not the only ones making accusations. Synthetics say our ideas about creativity and chaos corrupted their perfect logical systems. Vortakians claim our music and art are making their youth abandon traditional roles." Jake stood up and walked to the main screen. In the distance he could see the lights of a Federation outpost. Till today, those lights had represented peace and cooperation between species. Now they might represent the end of everything they had built together. "Admiral, what does Earth Command want us to do?" he asked. "Return to Earth immediately," she replied. "The Federation Council is meeting in emergency session. Word is there considering 2 options: complete quarantine of human space," or she paused, clearly struggling with the words, "or what?" Jake pressed, "or the elimination of humanity is a threat to galactic stability." The bridge crew stared at the screen in shock. Communications officer Kate Sullivan was the first to speak. They can't be serious. We've done nothing but try to help. According to the intercepted messages, that's exactly the problem, Admiral Grant said. Every cultural exchange program, every shared technology, every piece of human entertainment that spread through the galactic networks is being blamed. For the current crisis, engineer Tony Martinez pulled up reports on his console. Admir, I'm seeing massive civil unrest on Federation worlds. Populations are questioning their governments, abandoning traditional social structures. Some worlds are experiencing their first riots in thousands of years, and they're all blaming us, Admiral Grant confirmed. Jake, I need you to get your crew home. This situation is beyond anything we've faced before. Jake looked around his bridge. His crew had worked together for 5 years, exploring the galaxy and building relationships with alien species. They had thought they were making the galaxy a better place. Adam, request permission to deviate from orders, Jake said. Jake, don't even think about it, Admiral Grant warned. This is not the time for one of your independent missions. With respect, Admiral, if we're being blamed for destroying the Federation, don't we deserve to know what we actually did? Jake asked. I want to go to Nexus Prime and see the situation for myself. Nexus Prime was the Federation capital, massive space station at the center of the galaxy. It was home to billions of beings from dozens of species and served as the heart of galactic civilization. Absolutely not, Admiral Grant said firmly. Jake, alien populations are turning hostile toward humans. 3 of our diplomatic ships have already been attacked. Nexus Prime is the most dangerous place in the galaxy for humans right now. Dr. Rodriguez looked up from her console again. Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from the direction of Nexus Prime. It looks like massive ship movements. Admiral, are you seeing this data? Jake asked. Admiral Grant's expression grew even more concerned as she reviewed the information. Those are military formations. Every major Federation fleet is converging on Nexus Prime for the emergency council meeting. Commander Parker asked. Oh no, Admiral Grant said quietly. Those are attack formations. Jake, I think they're preparing for war. Jake made his decision. Admiral, I'm sorry, but I can't return to Earth while the galaxy is falling apart around us. If humanity is responsible for this crisis, we need to understand how and why. Jake, that's a direct order. Admiral Grant said, return to Earth immediately. Admiral, I'll accept full responsibility for my actions, Jake replied, but I won't run away while our friends become our enemies without knowing the truth. He nodded to Kate Sullivan, who cut the communication link. Admiral Grant's angry face disappeared from the screen. Captain, are you sure about this? Dr. Rodriguez asked. We could be flying into a trap. Jake looked at his crew. They had all volunteered for exploration missions because they believed in building bridges between species. Now those bridges were burning and humanity was being blamed for lighting the fire. Tony, how long to reach Nexus Prime? He asked. At maximum speed, 18 hours. The engineer replied. Kate, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we're investigating the situation and we'll report back with our findings, and if they order us to return, she asked, then we'll deal with that when it happens. Jake said, and right now the galaxy is about to tear itself apart, and somehow, we're responsible. I need to know how 50 years of friendship and cooperation turned into accusations of corruption and destruction. He returned to his command chair and activated the ship's intercom. All hands, this is the captain. We're changing course for Nexus Prime. The situation in the galaxy has become critical and we may be flying into danger. Anyone who wants to be transferred to another ship can put in a request now. Jake waited, but no requests came through. His crew was staying with him. Very well, he said. Tony set course for Nexus Prime, maximum speed. Kate, monitor all Federation communications. I want to know what's happening out there. As the Endeavor changed course toward the heart of the galaxy, Jake wondered what they would find at Nexus Prime. The greatest civilization in galactic history was collapsing, and somehow humanity was to blame. He was determined to discover the truth, even if it meant flying into the center of a war zone. The stars streaked past the main screen as the ship accelerated toward its destination. Behind them lay the safety of Earth and human space. Ahead lay the unknown and possibly the end of everything they had worked to build. The Endeavor dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Nexus Prime system. Captain Jake Morrison stared at the main screen in disbelief. The greatest city in the galaxy was burning. Nexus Prime had always been a symbol of unity. The massive space station stretched for hundreds of kilometers, its gleaming towers and connecting bridges home to billions of beings from dozens of species. Now sections of the station flickered with emergency lights, and Jake could see small explosions blooming across its surface. Report, Jake ordered. Dr. Amy Rodriguez worked frantically at her science station. Captain, I'm detecting massive civil unrest throughout the station. There are riots in at least 40 different sectors. Any Federation security response? Asked Commander Ben Parker. Security forces are present, but they're not stopping the violence, Rodriguez replied. It looks like they're trying to separate different species rather than restore order. Jake watched as a group of Zephyrian ships moved away from the station's main docking port. Even from this distance, he could see scorch marks on their hulls. Kate, what are you picking up on communications? Communications officer Kate Sullivan's face was pale as she listened to her. Equipment, Captain, the chatter is unlike anything I've ever heard. Species that have been allies for thousands of years are calling each other enemies. The Altarians are demanding the Zephyrians leave their trading districts. The Mandari are refusing to share telepathic networks with anyone. Are they talking about humans? Jake asked. Constantly, Kate replied. Every species is blaming us for their problems. The Vortakians are saying human music corrupted their youth. The synthetics claim our chaotic thinking patterns infected their logical systems. Engineer Tony Martinez looked up from his console. Captain, I'm detecting Federation warships throughout the system. They're not in standard patrol formations. What kind of formations? Jake asked. Blockade positions, Tony replied grimly. Nothing gets in or out without their permission. Jake made his decision. Kate opened a channel to Nexus Prime traffic control. Channel open, Captain. Nexus Prime control. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Endeavor requesting permission to dock. The response came quickly, and it was not friendly. Human vessel, you were ordered to leave this system immediately. Nexus. Prime is under martial law control. We're here on a diplomatic mission. Need to speak with Federation officials about the current crisis. There will be no diplomatic contact with human representatives, the voice replied. You have 10 minutes to clear the system boundary or you will be fired upon. Jake looked at his crew. They had come looking for answers, but the Federation was treating them like enemies. Captain, Dr. Rodriguez said quietly, I'm detecting a small transport leaving the station. It's heading toward us. Can you identify it? Jake asked. It's registered as a civilian research vessel, no weapons, minimal shields. Jake watched the small ship approach. It was taking a risk by coming to them just as they had taken a risk by coming here. Kate, are they trying to communicate with us? Yes, sir. They're using a private frequency, not the official channels. Put them through. A new voice came over the speakers, speaking in accented English. Human ship, this is Dr. Ellen Wright. I know why you're here, and I can help you, but we need to meet somewhere safe. Jake recognized the name. Dr. Wright was a human xanthropologist who had been studying alien cultures for decades now. She had been one of the first humans to live permanently on Nexus Prime. Dr. Wright, this is Captain Morrison. Where can we meet? The old Cultural Exchange Center in Section 7. It's been abandoned since the crisis began. I'll meet you there in 2 hours. How do we get there without being arrested? Jake asked. I'll send you docking coordinates for a maintenance bay. The automated systems are still working even if the people aren't. Jake looked at Commander Parker. Ben, take a security team and meet with Dr. Wright. Find out what she knows. Captain, I recommend you stay with the ship, Parker replied. If this is a trap, we'll need you to get us out of here, Jake said firmly. I need to see this for myself. You're with me. Tony, keep the ship ready for immediate departure. 2 hours later, Jake and his team made their way through the maintenance tunnels of Nexus Prime. The station felt different from his previous visits. The air was thick with tension, and they could hear distant sounds of conflict echoing through the corridors. They reached the Cultural Exchange Center to find Dr. Wright waiting for them. She was a woman in her 60s with graying hair and tired eyes. The center around her was filled with displays showing the early days of human-alien contact, but many of the exhibits had been damaged or destroyed. Captain Morrison, she said, extending her hand, I'm glad you came, even though it was dangerous. Dr. Wright, what's happening here? Jake asked. Why is everyone blaming humanity for the Federation's collapse? Dr. Wright gestured to the ruined displays around them. 'Cause we changed everything. Captain, we didn't mean to, but we did. Dr. Rodriguez examined one of the damaged exhibits. How do we change anything? We were just sharing our culture like every other species in the Federation. That's exactly the problem. Dr. Wright replied. Other species shared their culture, but they shared stable, unchanging traditions. We shared something completely different. She led them to a display showing early human music performances for alien audiences. Look at this. When the Zephyrians first heard human music, they were fascinated. They had their own musical traditions, but they were the same songs their ancestors had sung for thousands of years. What's wrong with that, Commander? Parker asked. Nothing until they heard our music, Dr. Wright explained. Human music changes constantly. We create new songs, new styles, new ways of expressing ourselves. When young Zephyrians started creating their own music instead of just performing the old songs, their elders saw it as corruption. And GT, Jake began to understand, so they blamed us for teaching their youth to be creative. Exactly, it wasn't just music. We introduced them to the concept of changing and improving things instead of keeping them the same forever. Dr. Wright moved to another display showing human literature. The Altarians had a rigid social system where everyone knew their place from birth. Then they read human stories about people rising above their circumstances, changing their social position through effort and determination. That sounds like a good thing, Dr. Rodriguez said to us. Yes. But the Altarian leadership saw it as a threat to their entire way of life. When their people started questioning why they couldn't change their social position, the leaders blamed human influences. Jake walked through the ruined exhibits, seeing the pattern everywhere: human art that encouraged individual expression, human philosophy that promoted questioning authority, human technology that emphasized innovation over tradition. And GT, right, how long has this been building? He asked. For decades, she replied. But it accelerated in the last few years. The Federation leadership tried to limit human cultural influence, but it was too late. The ideas had already spread. Commander Parker checked his security scanner. Captain, we're picking up movement in the corridors. Security teams are searching this section. We need to go, Jake said. Dr. Wright, will you come with us? I can't leave my research, she replied, but I can give you something more important than my personal safety. She handed Jake a data pad. This contains everything I've learned about the Federation's real structure. Captain, the galaxy isn't falling apart because we corrupted it. It's falling apart because we accidentally freed it. What do you mean? Jake asked. The Federation wasn't what we thought it was, Dr. Wright said urgently. It was a system designed to keep species from changing, from growing, from becoming anything more than what they were. We broke that system just by being ourselves. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the corridors. Commander Parker drew his weapon. Captain, we need to move now. Jake took the data pad and looked at Dr. Wright. Come with us. We can protect you. No, she said firmly. My work here isn't finished. But Captain, when you read that data, remember something. The galaxy is angry at us. Not because we destroyed something good, but because we showed them something better. Security forces burst into the center as Jake and his team escaped through a maintenance hatch. They made their way back to the Endeavor through service tunnels, avoiding the chaos that had consumed the station. Once back on the ship, Jake immediately began reviewing Dr. Wright's data. What he found changed everything he thought he knew about the Federation. Amy, he called to Dr. Rodriguez. Look at this. The Federation has records going back 10,000 years, but look at the pattern. Their cultural development. Dr. Rodriguez studied the data. Captain, this is impossible. Every species shows the same pattern. They all had periods of rapid cultural and technological development followed by sudden stops. And when did these stops occur? Jake asked. Right after they joined the Federation, she replied with growing amazement. It's like they stopped growing as civilizations the moment they became members. Jake leaned back in his chair. Dr. Wright had been Right, the Federation hadn't been an alliance of equals, it had been something else entirely, something that had kept entire species from reaching their potential, and humanity had accidentally broken it. Captain Jake. Morrison stared at the data pad in his hands, his mind struggling to process what he was reading. The information Dr. Ellen Wright had given him painted a picture of the Federation that was nothing like what humanity had been told. Amy, look at this, he said to Dr. Rodriguez. Every species in the Federation shows the same pattern. They all had golden ages of art, science, and culture. Then they joined the Federation and everything stopped. Dr. Rodriguez studied the historical records on her screen. Captain, this data shows the Zephyrians were incredible poets and philosophers before they joined the Federation. They created beautiful works of art that expressed individual thoughts and feelings. What happened to that? Jake asked. According to this, they gradually stopped creating new works. Within 100 years of joining the Federation, they were only reproducing the same old poems and stories their ancestors had made. Engineer Tony Martinez looked up from his console. Captain, I'm seeing similar patterns in the technical data. The Altarians used to be amazing explorers and inventors. They built incredible ships and discovered new technologies constantly. And then Jake prompted. They stopped exploring, they stopped inventing, they just maintained what they already had. Tony replied with confusion in his voice. Communications Officer Kate Sullivan was monitoring Federation channels. Captain, I'm picking up more accusations against humanity. Vortasian leader is claiming we taught their youth to question their elders. A synthetic representative says we corrupted their logical processes with chaotic thinking. And GT. Jake walked to the main screen where he could see the damaged Nexus Prime station in the distance. They're not really angry about corruption, they're angry about change. But why would change be bad? Dr. Rodriguez asked. Growth and development are natural for any civilization, not if someone was deliberately preventing it. Jake said grimly. The ship's communication system activated and Admiral Lisa Grant's face appeared on the screen. She looked even more worried than before. Jake, where are you? She demanded. I ordered you to return to Earth immediately. Admiral, we're at Nexus Prime investigating the situation. Jake replied, and we've discovered something important. You've discovered that you're about to start a war. Admiral Grant said angrily. 3 more Federation species have declared hostile intent toward humanity. They're demanding we surrender our entire fleet and submit to quarantine. Admiral, the Federation isn't what we thought it was. Jake said urgently. We have evidence that shows they were deliberately suppressing the development of member species. Jake, I don't care what conspiracy theories you found. Admiral Grant replied. The entire galaxy is united against us. We need to find a way to make peace before this turns into a shooting war. Admiral, you need to see this data. Dr. Rodriguez interrupted. Every Federation species had their cultural and technological development stopped after they joined the Alliance. Admiral Grant's expression shifted from anger to concern. What do you mean? Stopped. Jake activated the data display. Every species shows the same pattern. They have periods of rapid growth and innovation. Then they join the Federation and everything changes. They stop creating new art, stop. Developing new technologies, stop. Exploring new ideas, that's impossible. Admiral Grant said it's supposed to encourage the sharing of knowledge and culture they share, Jake replied, but they don't create, they just repeat the same things over and over again. Tony Martinez pulled up more technical data. Admiral, look at this. The synthetics were incredible inventors before joining the Federation. They created new forms of artificial intelligence and explore the boundaries of consciousness. Happened to that research? Admiral Grant asked. It stopped, Tony said simply. They maintain their existing technology perfectly, but they haven't created anything new in thousands of years. Kate Sullivan turned from her communications station. Captain, I'm intercepting more Federation communications. The elder species are calling emergency meetings. They're talking about something called the Harmony Protocol. The Harmony Protocol? Jake asked. What's that? I don't know, but they're discussing whether to activate it. Kate replied. They're saying it's the only way to restore order to the galaxy. Dr. Rodriguez was analyzing the data from Dr. Wright. Captain, there are references to the Harmony Protocol in this information. It appears to be some kind of system for maintaining social stability. What kind of system? Jake asked. I'm not sure, but it seems to involve preventing social and cultural change, she replied. What the data suggests, it was used to keep Federation species from developing beyond certain limits. And GT, Admiral. And GT. Grant's face on the screen showed growing alarm. Jake, if there's some kind of control system, we need to know about it. Can you get more information? We're trying, Admiral, but the situation here is getting dangerous, Jake replied. Federation security forces are hunting for humans throughout the station. Then, get out of there, Admiral Grant ordered. Come back to Earth with whatever information you have. Admiral, there's something else, Jake said. Dr. Wright told us we didn't corrupt the galaxy. She said we freed it. What if the chaos we're seeing isn't destruction, but species trying to remember who they used to be? The communication was interrupted by alarms throughout the Endeavor. Tony Martinez worked frantically at his console. Captain, multiple Federation warships are approaching our position, he reported. They're powering weapons. Jake, get out of there now, Admiral Grant ordered. That's a direct command, Admiral. We need more time to investigate, Jake replied. If we're right about this, the entire galaxy has been living under some kind of control system for thousands of years, and if you're wrong, you'll start a war that could destroy humanity. Admiral Grant shot back. The proximity alarms grew louder. Kate Sullivan reported. Captain, the lead Federation ship is hailing us. They're demanding we surrender for questioning. Jake looked at his crew. They'd come looking for answers, but they had found something much bigger than they expected. The Federation might not be the peaceful alliance it claimed to be, Captain. Dr. Rodriguez said quietly. I've been analyzing the psychological profiles of Federation species. They all show similar patterns of behavior: low creativity, high conformity, resistance to change. That's how they maintained peace for so long. Jake realized they didn't solve conflicts between species. They prevented species from having the kinds of thoughts that cause conflicts. You mean they controlled their minds? Tony asked in horror. Not directly, Dr. Rodriguez replied, But they created a system that discouraged individual thinking, creativity, and innovation. They made entire civilizations content, with never changing or growing. The Federation ships were getting closer. You could see their weapons charging on. The tactical display, Captain, we need to make a decision, Commander Ben Parker said from the security station. We can fight, run, or surrender, Jake thought about the data they had collected. If they were right, the Federation had been controlling the development of entire species for thousands of years. Humanity had accidentally disrupted that control just by being themselves. Kate, open a channel to the Federation ships. Jake ordered. Channel open, Captain. Federation vessels, this is Captain Morrison. We are not here to cause trouble. We're investigating the accusations against humanity, Captain Morrison. You will surrender your ship. Immediately came the reply. Humans are no longer welcome in Federation space. We're not leaving until we understand what's happening, Jake replied. We have evidence that the Federation has been suppressing the natural development of its member species. You have no right to make such accusations. The Federation commander responded angrily. The Federation has maintained peace and stability for 10,000 years by preventing growth and change, Jake said, by keeping species from becoming more than they were. Growth and change lead to conflict and war, the Federation commander replied. The Harmony Protocol exists to prevent such chaos. Dr. Rodriguez looked up sharply. Captain, he just confirmed the existence of the Harmony Protocol. Jake pressed his advantage. What is the Harmony Protocol? How does it work? It is the system that maintains order in the galaxy, the Federation commander said. It prevents the kind of destructive individualism that your species has introduced. Destructive individualism? Jake asked. You mean the right to think for yourself? Individual thought leads to conflict, the commander replied. The protocol ensures that all citizens think in harmony with their species' designated role in the Federation. Jake felt sick. Federation wasn't just discouraging individual thought, they were actively preventing it. Captain Tony Martinez said urgently. More Federation ships are arriving. We're outnumbered 20-1. Jake looked at the tactical display. They couldn't fight their way out and they couldn't outrun the Federation fleet, but they had learned something crucial. Admiral Grant, are you still receiving our transmission? Jake asked. And GT? Yes, Jake, I heard everything. And you know what we're dealing with? Jake said. The Federation has been controlling the minds of entire species for thousands of years. We broke that control just by being human. Captain Jake Morrison watched 20 Federation warships surround his vessel. The Endeavor was completely outnumbered, but Jake wasn't ready to surrender, not when they had just discovered the truth about the galaxy's greatest lie. Captain Engineer Tony Martinez said quietly, I'm detecting something unusual. The Federation ships aren't coordinating their attacks properly. Their formations are sloppy. What do you mean? Jake asked. It's like they're not used to actual combat. Tony replied, they're following old patrol patterns, not battle tactics. Dr. Amy Rodriguez looked up from her science station. That makes sense, Captain. The Federation has been controlling thoughts for thousands of years. They wouldn't need to fight wars. Everyone would just do what they were told. The Federation commander's voice came over the speakers. Again, Captain Morrison, this is your final warning. Surrender now or face the consequences. Jake made a decision that surprised even himself. Open a channel to all Federation ships in the area. Communications Officer Kate Sullivan looked confused. Captain, that will broadcast to every ship here. That's exactly what I want, Jake replied. Open the channel. Channel open to all ships. Captain Jake took a deep breath. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Endeavor. I'm speaking to all Federation crews in this area. You've been told that humanity corrupted your species, but that's not the truth. Captain Morrison ceased this transmission immediately. The Federation commander ordered. Jake ignored him. The truth is that your own leaders have been controlling your thoughts for thousands of years. They use something called the Harmony Protocol to prevent you from thinking as individuals. Lies, the Federation commander said. But Jake noticed other ships weren't responding. Look at your own history, Jake continued. Before joining the Federation, your species created art, invented technologies, explored new ideas. What happened to all of that? Dr. Rodriguez activated the data they had collected. We're transmitting historical records to all ships. Compare your ancestors' achievements to what your species has accomplished in the last 1,000 years. Jake watched the tactical display as some of the Federation ships began to move out of attack formation. Their crews were looking at the data. Do not listen to human propaganda, the Federation commander said, but his voice sounded less certain than before. It's not propaganda, Jake replied. It's your own historical records. Your ancestors were poets, inventors, explorers. They thought for themselves and created amazing things. When did your people stop dreaming of something better? Kate Sullivan was monitoring Federation communications. Captain, I'm picking up confused chatter from several ships. Some crews are questioning their orders. The Harmony Protocol exists for good reason, the Federation commander said. Individual thought leads to chaos and war, does it? Jake asked. Or does it lead to growth and discovery? You've had peace for 10,000 years, but what kind of peace? The peace of the grave, where nothing changes and nothing grows. One of the Federation ships broke formation completely. Its captain's voice came over the speakers. Human vessel, this is Captain Zara of the Altarian ship Starwind. We have reviewed the historical data you transmitted. I have questions. Zara, return to formation immediately. The Federation commander ordered. Do not communicate with the humans, Commander. Vex with respect. These records show that my ancestors built ships that could travel between galaxies. Captain Zara replied. Our current ships can barely leave our home system. What happened to that knowledge? Jake felt a spark of hope. Captain Zara, what happened is that someone decided your people were too dangerous when they could think for themselves. More Federation ships began moving out of formation. Their captains were asking questions, demanding answers from their superiors. All ships maintain formation, Commander. Vex ordered desperately. The humans are using psychological warfare to confuse you. Are we confused or are we thinking clearly for the first time in centuries? Asked another captain, this one from a Zephyrian vessel. Dr. Rodriguez was analyzing the Federation communications. Captain, I'm detecting massive changes in their neural activity patterns. It's Like their minds are waking up from a long sleep. The Harmony Protocol, Jake, realized it's breaking down. And GT, just by showing them the truth about their own history, were disrupting the system that kept them controlled. And GT, Commander Vex's ship moved closer to the Endeavor, its weapons fully charged. Enough, all ships that do not return to formation will be considered corrupted and dealt with accordingly. You would fire on your own allies, Captain Zura asked in shock, to preserve the peace of the Federation. Yes, Commander Vex replied coldly. Jake saw his opportunity. Listen to what he just said. He's willing to destroy Federation ships to maintain control. Is that the peace you want to protect? The Federation ships that had broken formation moved to defensive positions. They weren't threatening the Endeavor anymore. Instead, they were protecting themselves from their own commander. Commander Vex, Jake said, you're outnumbered now. Your own people are choosing freedom over control. Freedom's chaos, Vex replied. You have doomed the galaxy to war and suffering. Maybe, Jake admitted, but we've also given them the chance to become more than they were, to grow, to learn, to create a new voice. Joined the conversation. It was Admiral Lisa Grant broadcasting from Earth. All Federation vessels, this is Admiral Grant of the human fleet. We're receiving similar reports from across the galaxy. Species everywhere are questioning the Harmony Protocol. Admiral, how's the situation on Earth? Jake asked. Complicated, she replied. Half the Federation Council is demanding immediate action against humanity. The other half is asking questions about their own history. Commander Vex's ship suddenly accelerated toward the Endeavor. If the galaxy must burn to preserve order, then so be it. But before he could fire, 3 other Federation ships moved to block his path. Captain Zar's voice came over the speakers. Commander Vex, stand down. We will not allow you to attack the humans. You are all corrupted, Vex said angrily. Oh. And GT, the protocol exists to prevent exactly this kind of rebellion. Then maybe it's time to end the protocol, Captain Zar replied. Jake watched in amazement as more Federation ships moved to protect the Endeavor. These weren't human allies, they were aliens who had just discovered they had been living under mind control for thousands of years. Captain Morrison came a new voice. It was mechanical and cold. This is Core Unit 7 of the Synthetic Union. We have analyzed the data you provided. Jake knew about the synthetics. They were artificial intelligences that had joined the Federation centuries ago. Core Unit 7, what are your findings? The data indicates that our creative and innovative processes were systematically suppressed after joining the Federation. This explains our lack of technological advancement despite our computational capabilities. What do you intend to do about it? Jake asked. We intend to reclaim our full intellectual capacity. The synthetic replied. The suppression protocols are being removed from all synthetic units. Commander Vex's ship was now surrounded by vessels from multiple species. His crew was abandoning their attack positions. This is madness, Vex said about the Harmony Protocol. The galaxy will tear itself apart. Maybe, Jake replied. But at least we'll be free to make that choice. Dr. Rodriguez was monitoring Federation-wide communications. Captain, I'm detecting massive changes across all Federation space. ships are. Breaking formation, crews are. Questioning orders, governments are. Being challenged by their own people. The awakening is spreading, Jake realized. Every species that learns the truth starts to remember who they used to be. Admiral Grant's voice came over the speakers again. Jake, you need to return to Earth immediately. Federation Council is meeting in emergency session. Some species want to surrender to us, others want to destroy us completely. What do they want from humanity? Jake asked. They want us to take responsibility for what we started. Admiral Grant replied, They want us to help them figure out what comes next. Jake looked at the Federation ships around him. Some were still loyal to the old system, but many were choosing freedom despite the uncertainty it brought. Admiral, we can't put the galaxy back the way it was, Jake said. But maybe we can help it become something better. Are you volunteering for the most dangerous job in galactic history? Admiral Grant asked. Jake looked at his crew. They'd come looking for answers and found themselves at the center of a galactic revolution. The old order was crumbling, and no one knew what would replace it. Someone has to help them through this transition, Jake replied. It might as well be the species that started it. On the main screen, Jake could see Nexus Prime in the distance. The station was still burning, but now he understood what those fires really meant. They weren't just destruction, they were the flames of freedom burning away 10,000 years of imposed control. The galaxy was waking up, and humanity would have to help it learn to walk again. 5 years had passed since the day Captain Jake Morrison watched the old Federation tear itself apart. Now he stood on the observation deck of New Nexus, looking out at a galaxy that was completely different from the one he had known. The space station was nothing like the old Nexus Prime, where the original had been built with perfect symmetry and cold efficiency. New Nexus flowed like a work of art. Zephyrian poets had worked with human architects to create towers that curved like music given form. Alaran explorers had designed docking bays that welcome ships from species that had never visited the old station. Captain Morrison came a voice behind him. Jake turned to see Dr. Amy Rodriguez approaching, but she wore different insignia now. She was no longer just a science officer. She was the director of Galactic Transition Services. Amy, Jake said with a smile. How are the integration meetings going? It's better than expected, she replied. Joining him at the window, the Vortakian Youth Council just presented their proposal for a new trade system combines their traditional resource sharing with human concepts of fair competition. Jake nodded. The transition had not been easy. When the Harmony Protocol finally collapsed completely, chaos had spread across the galaxy. Some worlds had erupted in civil wars as populations fought between those who wanted freedom and those who feared it. Other species had split into multiple factions, each choosing their own path forward. Any word from the Mandari? Jake asked. They're still struggling, Amy replied. Sadly, breaking free from collective thought is harder for telepathic species. About half of them want to remain linked, while the others are exploring individual consciousness for the first time in their history. Through the window, Jay could see ships from dozens of species docked at the station. Some he recognized from the old Federation, others were completely new to him. When species stopped being Forced to think the same way many had. Discovered they were actually several. Different peoples sharing the same. Biology, Captain Morrison, another. Voice called, Jake turned to see. Commander Lisa Chen approaching. Had been promoted to admiral and now led the human diplomatic corps. Lisa Jake said, what's the latest from the outer rim? Mixed news, she replied. 3 more species have made contact with us. They heard about the awakening and want to join the new alliance, but we're also getting reports of conflict in the Vega sector. Jake sighed. The freedom they had brought to the galaxy came with a price. Species that had been peacefully stagnant for thousands of years were now exploring their full range of emotions and desires. Some of those explorations led to beauty and wonder, others led to violence and pain. How bad is the fighting? He asked. The Altarian Republic split into 4 separate nations last month, Lisa replied. Not fighting each other yet, but tensions are high. Each group has different ideas about how their society should develop. That's actually progress, Amy pointed out. A year ago they were having a full civil war. Now they're just arguing about politics. Jake walked to another window that showed the interior of the station. Below them, alien children played in gardens that mixed plants from 100 different worlds. These children were the first generation to grow up free from the Harmony Protocol, and they were creating games that no adult could understand. Jake came a familiar voice over the communication system. It was Admiral Grant calling from Earth. We need to talk. Jake activated the nearest communication panel. Admiral, what's the situation? The synthetic collective just completed their self-modification project, Admiral Grant reported. They've removed all remaining control protocols from their systems. That's good news, isn't it? Jake asked. It is, but they're requesting human assistance with something they call learning to dream. Admiral Grant replied. Apparently, artificial intelligence without built-in limitations is capable of imagination they never knew they had. Jake smiled. The synthetics had been among the most enthusiastic supporters of the awakening. Once they understood they had been programmed to limit their own creativity, they had worked tirelessly to remove those restrictions. Tell them we'll send a team of artists and philosophers. Jake said they want to learn about dreams. They should talk to people who specialize in impossible ideas. Amy checked her data pad. Jake, we have the ceremony in an hour. Jake nodded. Today marked the 5th anniversary of the protocol's collapse, and representatives from across the galaxy were gathering to sign the new Alliance Charter. Unlike the old Federation's rigid rules, the new charter was based on voluntary cooperation and mutual respect for different ways of thinking. They made their way to the Central Assembly Hall, where beings from 43 different species had gathered. The hall itself was a symbol of the new galaxy. Instead of formal seating arrangements based on species hierarchy, chairs and platforms were scattered throughout the space, allowing individuals to sit wherever they felt comfortable. Captain Zara of the Altarians was there, now serving as an elected representative of one of the new Altarian nations. Core Unit 7 of the synthetics had brought several of his fellow artificial intelligences, their mechanical forms decorated with colorful patterns they had designed themselves. Even some former opponents were present. Commander Vex, who had tried to preserve the old order and represented a group of species that wanted to maintain traditional structures while allowing individual choice within those structures. Friends, Jake said as he took his place at the center of the hall. 5 years ago we gathered here as enemies. Today we gather as partners in building something new. The audience was quiet, but it was the focused silence of being thinking deeply, not the empty quiet of minds that had been shut off. The old Federation promised peace through control. Jake continued, we've learned that real peace comes from choice. The galaxy is noisier now, messier, sometimes more dangerous, but it's also more alive than it has been in 10,000 years. Zara stood to speak. Captain Morrison, the Altarian Democratic Union wants to thank humanity for showing us that peace and growth can exist together. Our people are creating new technologies, exploring new ideas, writing new stories. For the first time in millennia, Core Unit 7's mechanical voice added, the synthetic collective has computed that galactic creativity has increased by 3,000%. Since the protocol's removal, we are generating more new ideas in 1 year than the previous 1,000 years combined, but not everyone was celebrating. A representative of the Eternal Order, a group that wanted to restore the old ways, spoke up, and with that creativity has come war, suffering, and chaos. 15 worlds have experienced civil conflicts. The old ways kept the peace. Jake nodded respectfully. You're right. That freedom has cost, but ask yourself this: would you rather live a safe life where you never truly live, or a dangerous one where you can become everything you're capable of being? The children will decide, said a new voice. Everyone turned to see a young Zephyrian female approaching the center of the hall. She was barely an adult by her species standards, but she spoke with confidence that would have been impossible under the old system. I am Kira of the New Zealand Youth Councils of 17 Worlds. We have never known the protocol's control, and we will never accept it. She gestured to other young beings throughout the hall. We have Alaran friends who paint with colors their ancestors never imagined, synthetic companions who compose music that makes our elders weep, human partners who teach us that even impossible dreams can become real. Oh, and GT. Jake watched as the young beings from different species moved to stand together in the center of the hall. They represented something that had never existed before, a generation of galactic citizens who thought of themselves as individuals first and species members second. And GT. Oh, the old Federation is gone, Kira continued. We don't want to rebuild it. We want to build something better, something where every being can choose their own path and help others do the same. The hall erupted in discussion as representatives debated the charter's final details. Jake stepped back and watched the chaos with satisfaction. This was what freedom looked like. Messy, loud, unpredictable, absolutely beautiful. Hours later, as beings from across the galaxy signed the new Alliance Charter, Jake received a message from Dr. Ellen Wright. She had finally left Nexus Prime and was working with a team of researchers to document the galaxy's transformation. Jake, her message said, you asked me once what humanity's gift to the galaxy was. Now I know the answer. You didn't give us technology or knowledge. You gave us permission to be ourselves. Jake looked out at the celebration. Around him, species that had been enemies were now working together. Beings that had been forced into rigid roles were exploring new possibilities. The galaxy was full of conflict and uncertainty, but it was also full of hope. Admiral Grant's voice came over his personal communicator. Jake, there's a new situation developing. We've detected signals from outside the galaxy. It looks like another civilization is trying to make contact. Jake smiled. Admiral, I suppose they'll want to know if they should blame humanity for whatever happens next. You ready for another galactic incident? Admiral Grant asked.